Next up, energy. And this is the part of the Quantum Party playbook that is my absolute ace in the hole here. And the reason is, this is something that could appeal to both the right wing, but especially it could appeal to the left wing. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about a real Green New Deal. I'm talking about, instead of a bunch of government rules like forcing us to do a bunch of stuff we don't want to, I'm talking about unlocking the future by unleashing the power of these technologies that are up and coming, and these technologies that have been hidden for us for a long time. So, households that never have power bills, devices like phones and stuff that never need to be charged, cars, electric cars that have unlimited range that you just never have to plug in, factories that can generate all their own power on site, decentralized instead of centralized energy. So instead of tying you into a grid, a control grid, this is freeing you from all sorts of control grid. So we need to talk about first why we've been stuck with oil and how oil is. And we talked a little about this in banking, right? There's a thing called the petrodollar system. Essentially, it's the United States dollar is backed by nothing, kind of like cryptocurrency. So its value is determined by how many people use it. And so after World War II, we were the biggest, baddest dogs on the block. We went and we shook all the other countries down into using dollars to buy oil, to buy all their big national purchases and stuff. So what that did is that artificially boosts massively the circulation of our money, and that holds up the value as our politicians print money like drunken sailors. That petrodollar system is coming to an end here. So for many decades, we've had this deal with Saudi Arabia where they are forced to sell all of their oil to other countries in dollars, helping us prop up the value of it. And in exchange, it's like this protection racket. We sell them a bunch of weapons, and we essentially turn a blind eye to all the insane medieval stuff that they do to their neighbors and to their people. So this system is coming to an end. For a long time, there's this thing called the Invention Secrecy Act. And what that is the government, anything that's a threat to the economy, anything that's a threat to our system here, like groundbreaking new energy technologies, it allows them to legally go and capture or kill or sabotage them and make sure that those don't get out, because they don't want it to affect this petrodollar system here that keeps our money system going. So considering that our money system is ending either way, that our system is going to collapse either way, this is a perfect opportunity for a lot of this new technologies to come out. What we need to do is we need to move to this thing called Energy 3. Energy 1 is oil, gas, fossil fuels, things that, the traditional stuff. Energy 2 is wind, renewables, solar, things like that. Energy 1 is a huge hassle, and it's not always the most clean. Obviously, we can't just get rid of it, pull the chair on ourselves. Energy 2 is also not going to work because the renewables, they're very intermittent. Wind's not always blowing, the sun's not always shining. And a lot of these things, they take a lot of pollution to create those things in the first place. A lot of toxic chemicals, a lot of shady deals. So we need to move this thing called Energy 3. And what Energy 3 is it's decentralized sources of unlimited clean energy that can be generated anywhere, at any time, on site. Like I said before, practical Green New Deal. And what that entails is that if these technologies can come out, if they can come to fruition, if these things can get up into scale, then we don't need the government to make a bunch of BS rules to force us to buy stuff or to force us to cut back on stuff. If you could go buy a phone that never needs to charge again, you wouldn't need the government to tell you to make you go do that. If you could buy an electric car that has unlimited range, you never need to buy gas or charge it again, nobody needs to force you to do that. You just want to, right? So this is a market-based approach for a real Green New Deal. And with this, we can get these technologies out there way faster. If we did it the government way and we have the government trying to force us to move to this or that when we don't want to, then it's going to be like pulling teeth. It's going to take decades and decades to actually be able to force everybody to do that. If we have these new technologies coming to fruition here that are good, that people just like and just want to get on their own, then we can actually make this happen and we can speed way past. So for all the lefties out there, this stuff, what I'm talking about here, the Quantum Party energy playbook, is way better by a million miles than anything that's being pushed by any of these climate lobbies, by any of these Democrats, by any of these so-called environmentalists here. Way better. So check this out. First one is called low energy modular nuclear fusion. I know some people are kind of scared of nuclear. They're thinking about what we have now, which is nuclear fission. So nuclear fission thing takes a huge factory and it creates a lot of radioactive waste, and a lot of people think that's, they don't like that very much. What I'm talking about here is a thing called fusion, essentially what the sun does. The sun is a giant fusion reactor. And if we use this fusion stuff, we could have a generator. Right now, this can fit in about the size of a shipping container, but it could get even smaller. So think like what they had on Iron Man. If you've seen Iron Man, where they have these little mobile reactors that just generate unlimited energy, that's what we're talking about here. And companies like this exist. This one on the site here, this is a company out of Arizona that has functional, working modular nuclear fusion here. Check this out. So this is an example, like a proof of concept, proof of it working. Obviously, this is like a prototype, right? So this is the kind of thing that needs to be able to be scaled up. But this is the kind of thing that it could run a factory. Like you could get a little fusion reactor and it could run an entire factory. It's not quite as small as what the Iron Man thing is yet, but you could have a like shipping container size reactor on site and run either a neighborhood, a factory. It could be really cool. And now if you get that, you pay for it once, you never have a power bill again. Pretty awesome, right? The next thing is called asymmetrical magnetic propulsion. These are startups with functioning prototypes that are trying to work their way up and scale up so that they can get out to market and do this at scale. Because when the stuff comes out, people are going to want to order, millions and millions of these things, and the companies need to be able to handle that. Right now, they're in their infancy stage. But check this out. The craziest thing is that there's all this awesome stuff, and their biggest issue is this Invention Secrecy Act and is them getting sabotaged by other people. Right? Their biggest issue isn't knowing what to do with the technology. Their biggest issue is having all these nefarious forces trying to squash them. So, next thing called asymmetrical magnetic propulsion. And we got a video right here on the site. But essentially what this is it's like a box that you could put on the side of your house, and it takes advantage of the natural magnetic fields of the earth. So you could buy a generator one time for your house, and you could never have a power bill again. And whether the wind is blowing, whether the sun is shining, it generates you unlimited power, and you never have a power bill again. Pretty awesome, right? Next thing is this graphene harvesting energy. So what that is a technology that can be built into a chip, like a computer chip or a cell phone chip. And it uses the quantum mechanics, and it essentially makes it so that you can have a phone that just generates electricity on its own and that never needs to be plugged in again. Imagine how many people, if you could go buy an iPhone that just never needed to be plugged in again, no government would need to force you to do that. You would just want to do that. Right? The next thing is these nanodiamond battery cells. So what this is battery cells that you could go repack every electric car we have out there now, and you could make new electric cars that they just never need to be plugged in ever again. Right? They could go 100, 200,000 miles, never ever need to be plugged in. They just generate their own power. And you could even use it as a cost-cutting thing for your house, where you could, when you're home, you could take your car and plug it in your house, and that car could power your house. So again, amazing, like super groundbreaking stuff. And this is just 4 examples of this, of these Energy 3 technologies. And I put this on here to show people, look, this is not some conspiracy stuff that is from a dark corner of the internet. This is some functioning, proven, funded startups that have working prototypes. So it's not BS. Everybody can go see it. This is a curation of 4 companies that I like, but there's many other companies that have some other cool technologies too. We need like a warp speed type of a deal where, they went and they made a lot of effort to get the vaccine out super quick. That we need that sort of a deal, but we need that for these energy technologies. And really what these technologies need is the government and the government's malicious henchmen to get out of their way. They also need the mainstream media to stop smearing them. So a lot of times, people don't want new energy technologies to come out. A lot of countries, they make a lot of their national budget off of oil revenue. So it's not just the United States and the United States oil companies, but oil companies and governments around the world have been trying to stop technologies like this. So when you come out with something groundbreaking, like this fusion stuff, for example, you have a bunch of people trying to go run stories in the press, acting like, oh, this is BS, oh, this is whatever, and throw shade on you so that you can never get to market. And then as a small company, you don't have the ability, you don't have these huge factories and this ability to make like hundreds or thousands of things a month. So you have to go out and try to make partnerships with other companies that can help you do that. And a lot of times those companies have other interests at play where they'll try to take your stuff and it'll get sabotaged, things will go wrong, founders will get killed. This happened a lot throughout history. We need the evil, corrupt dinosaur government to get out of the way, and we need these stupid kangaroo news media to get out of the way. And that will allow us to do this warp speed thing and get these energy technologies out quickly. And that will allow us to transition away from oil, not because any government is making us, but because we all want to, because the technology is available. That will allow us to do that in the next 5 to 10 years. This is way better, far and away, than any other thing that any other environmental group or any other government or any Democrats or anybody like that, anybody who claims to care about the environment, this plan is way better and way more viable than anything that they're pushing. This is the kind of thing that could bring the country together, right? This is the kind of thing that the left and the right can agree on. We need a new market-based approach here for fixing our energy grid. The truth is, our power grid right now is incredibly sketchy. So these idiots that run our government think that they're going to start a war. What would happen almost immediately is our power grid would get sabotaged and we would all be screwed. So for the environmentalists, it's an emergency that we move to Energy 3 to protect the environment. And for the people who are concerned about national security, it's an emergency, super duper important national security priority with all these geopolitical tensions rising here, that we modernize our energy grid with these decentralized energy 3 technologies so that we're not vulnerable, so that people can't chop us off, so that even if the government is doing some dumb stuff, that we as the people can have what we need to function here. We want to create a bunch of jobs with this. This can be something that we should manufacture in the United States. We should protect this stuff, bring this, like have this stuff made in the United States using American workers and American robots instead of Chinese slaves. Right now, a lot of this renewable stuff that they're trying to push us, a lot of it's made in China, and a lot of it's made by countries that we compete with, and a lot of it is creating jobs for people other than our people, and that needs to end. We need a massive energy revolution here. We need that stuff manufactured in the United States, and furthermore, we need to secure a massive source of raw materials in our own hemisphere. Right now, we get pretty much all of our steel, our rubber, our lead, and our aluminum from other countries. We need to have sources of those raw materials in this hemisphere. And so we floated in the past the idea like we should go buy Greenland. We should make a deal with the locals in Greenland. It wouldn't be like a colonialism thing because they're already colonized. A lot of people don't know this, but the royals in Denmark, that's who owns Greenland right now. That's who controls them right now. So we could go say, get out of here, queen. We'll give you a payment of this to just make this, allow you to save a little face instead of just taking it from you. But we need to go make a deal with these locals here that, hey, check it out. We'll make you super rich. We'll get you a bunch of good jobs if you so choose that. And we'll go mine these materials in an area that is not, killing a luscious rainforest. That it's like and that way we'd be getting stuff from our own hemisphere and we'd be feeding our own factories here. And that would allow us to instigate a global energy revolution here, which is exactly what we need to happen. So that's the plan. That's the energy revolution. That's the quantum Green New Deal. And that is a super huge ace in the hole that anybody from any side of the political spectrum should be able to get on board with here.